What needs to be done to eliminate poverty here in Kenya? That is our question of the day today. Your comments are appreciated on Facebook. You can also SMS us your comments on 5505. You can post your comments on our Facebook page or on our Twitter page. If you're just joining us, we were talking to Jacqueline Muga, the CEO of the Federation of Kenyan Employers, about the role of FKE and also the benefits of FKE. Now, getting to labor laws. In your opinion, labor laws in this country, are they passive or do they take a proactive role?
Our labor laws were revised in 2007, so they're fairly up to date and in line with the International Labor Organization's best standards. We have the Employment Act, the Labor Relations Act, the Labor Institutions Act, the Work Injury Benefits Act, and the Occupational Health and Safety Act. All these laws took into consideration international conventions that are passed by the International Labor Organization to bring into Kenya what those international standards require. In fact, in some instances, as a federation, we feel we've moved ahead fairly fast and changed all 5 pieces of legislation at a go. The neighboring countries took a more pragmatic approach, and it's important when you're going through legislative review to take into account the impact of those laws. And we did not give ourselves the opportunity to do that impact assessment. So I think industry is still struggling to match up the requirements of the laws, and we still need to look at the infrastructure on the ground, which is then used by the Ministry of Labor to carry out inspections. We did not resource the new laws. We did not do an impact assessment, and it means that industry is struggling. In some cases, like the Work Injury Benefits Act, you know, there was a court case that ruled 9 sections of that act to be unconstitutional. It therefore means we have a legislation that is hanging in the air, which has left industry, both industry employers and employees, quite exposed because we're not sure what we are implementing. So it's important that we have further discussions as Kenyans, employers and workers, to be sure that we have in place a mechanism for ensuring, first of all, that people know those laws, and secondly, that we have the resources to implement those laws, and where there is need to review some of the contents of those laws, we can now do it from an informed perspective because we've been working with those laws or trying to work with them for the last 3 years.
All right, and I'm sure one of the things encapsulated in those laws is on the fact of retrenchment. Most employees do not understand it. Probably you can help us understand how retrenchment does work.
There are very clear legal provisions on retrenchment in the laws, and they provide for the considerations and the factors that must be taken into account before that is done. We also have provisions in many collective bargaining agreements that are negotiated at the Federation's offices with unions that clearly delineate what an employer is supposed to do. From a point of view of you must notify the employees and the union, their benefits that are paid. The law lays a minimum of 15 days for each completed year of service and other aspects. So from a point of view of law, the process is there. But we realize that losing a job in Kenya now is a very serious thing because most people who have jobs support 10 plus more people. So an employer resorts to redundancy or retrenchment as a last resort. And that's a position which the Federation has taken, given that we're just coming out of the economic crisis. And right now we are faced with the high cost of living. Exactly. We are faced with the challenges of unemployment. And we have been saying in the last few weeks that we need to take a step back and consider the impact of some of the decisions we make on employment. And for this, the Federation has decided this year at its 52nd annual general meeting to focus on employment creation and the role of the private sector. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? So we'll come together as private sector, talking to permanent secretaries in focal ministries like the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of ESC, to find what are the challenges and what are the opportunities and how can the private sector work better with government to be able to enhance the possibilities of creating employment for the many, many youths that we have that are out of jobs.
Okay, it's quite interesting that the AGM is focusing on employment opportunities while we are facing an economic crisis, and most people are really scared that they might be redundant by the end of the year. Jacqueline, what does the government or what does the private sector also need to do to alleviate this kind of crisis that we are facing right now? Because, of course, employers need to make benefits at the end of the day.
I think it is recognized that the private sector is the engine of growth in any economy, and Kenya is the same. So we want to have a very clear structured dialogue with government on how we can enhance this partnership to grow our economy, to be able to have linkages perhaps between the multinationals and the local industries, to learn best practice, to pick management capabilities, to enhance the skills of their people, to be able to enhance productivity. And in that process, I think we'll be able to create new opportunities for employment, and we'll be able to open up space for people to learn new skills where perhaps the skills they have are outmoded. We must work with government to create investment opportunities in this country, and also to drive technological innovation, which the private sector can do if it is supported by government. So we have to do a balance between increasing the cost of doing business and plowing back into the local industries to create jobs. I think the reality is that jobs will not come from the foreign investors. We have to strengthen our local industries to be able to grow and move from the informal economy, which is where the largest segment of employment is in this country. We must consistently seek to move our informal economies into formal economies and to strengthen them to be able to withstand the competitive forces that are out there in the market. So we are coming together as employers tomorrow at our 52nd annual general meeting to talk to government in a clear, open, transparent way, looking for solutions to the challenges of employment in this country, hoping that then the government would be able to understand when employers say that you cannot increase the salaries beyond the inflation, beyond the growth that has been realized by an enterprise in a given year, because we have to keep tabs on the challenge of retaining people in employment.
All right, thank you very much, Jacqueline, for that. Well, there you had it. We have been speaking to the CEO of the Kenya Federation of Kenyan Employers, and she has been, they do have their 52nd annual general meeting tomorrow, which is scheduled for tomorrow. They will be talking to the government about the challenges they are facing as employers, and also they will be talking about employment opportunities largely for the youth that are out there. Well, it's now time to go to our 1 o'clock news bulletin for stories that we have been gathering for you.